Stay tuned for Butler on Business, coming up next on the Liberty Express.
Okay, welcome back to Butler on Business. Jason, why don't you introduce old Hill Harper to the listeners?
Well, Alan, we're fortunate to be joined live in the studio with Hill Harper. He is a co-star of the top-rated CSI New York and stars in numerous feature films. And as a side job, as moonlighting, as he likes to call it, he's also the best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author of 3 books, including his newest book, The Wealth Cure.
Hill, welcome to the show, buddy.
Great to be here. I love coming to Atlanta. It's like a second home to me. So many family friends, and just great people here.
So it's CSI New York, but you're filming it in Hollywood.
We shoot the interiors of CSI New York, and all 3 CSI shows. You know, none of them are set in Los Angeles. They all shoot in Los Angeles. You know, the economies of scale and all about budgetary considerations, and then we go to do big exterior shots. We'll all fly to the individual cities. So the Miami guys will fly to Miami, and Vegas guys will go to Vegas, and we go to New York.
Well, my children, who are adult children now, they watch the shows.
Okay.
So they know you well. But tell us about, first of all, your book and why you came about wanting to write the book.
Well, I have a foundation called the Manifest Your Destiny Foundation, and it's all about. It grew out of my first few books, and it's all about living your best life. And what I started to find when I would talk to people, it's all about education, empowerment, uplifting people. Their response to me would say, "Well, why aren't you doing what you really want to do? What's in your heart? What you're passionate about?" They'd say, "Hell, I can't afford to go to school, or I don't have the money to start this business." So it was almost as if money was the number one scapegoated excuse for the reason why people aren't living their best life. And so I wanted to sort of just dive into some rudimentary aspects of some of the successes I've had on the money and finance side, and I set out to write this book about money, finance. Let's take this issue off the table. Let's learn about it. Let's learn. Most of us have been taught the wrong thing about money. Most of us have been taught that money is a result rather than what it truly is, which is a resource or a tool to be used. I have the thing I call my money rule. The purpose of money is not to spend it, but rather to collect it so that you gain access to cheaper and cheaper money. Most of us have then also been taught that a dollar's a dollar's a dollar, but there's different types of money, different types of dollars. There's smart money and there's dumb money. Smart money is money that's working for you, and dumb money is money that's costing you on what you spend it on. So we can get into all that, but the point being is that I've set out to write this book, and I was shooting a movie actually here in Atlanta with Tyler Perry called For Color Girls during the hiatus of CSI, and I couldn't swallow one morning. And I went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer.
Whoa.
And that took me on even a deeper journey with this book, because no matter what level of celebrity you have or how much money or how well you've done in the market, if you don't have your health, if you don't have your loved ones around you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I really wanted to get into money's important, but true wealth. The true wealth factors in your life are more important. So I came up with this idea of your life account versus your bank account, and which one should you look to feed more, and how can you feed both in effective ways without choking the other. And that's what, finding that balance, finding that appropriate balance. And that's really what the curative element of the Wealth Cure is about.
Well, first of all, how's the cancer?
The doctors are telling me I'm good to go.
All right.
I had surgery, removed my thyroid. They don't believe that the cancer cells migrated to other parts of my body now. There could be some insidious little guys holing up somewhere saying I'm going to multiply, but let's hope that's not the case.
Now, did you go do the chemo and all of that?
Did not have to do radiation because they did not think that it had migrated. So I was lucky in that regard. And if they're right, I'm in good shape.
So what's life like without a thyroid?
You know what? I have no metabolism, so if I get fat on screen, I go from a leading man to a character actor. We'll see what happens.
So what do you do? I mean,
I eat a whole lot less than I used to.
Okay.
Well,
I'm diabetic. I eat a whole lot less.
I can't burn it. I can't burn it in the same way I used to burn it.
Oh, so the old excuse a lot of people use, he's got thyroid issues, actually would apply for you.
It definitely, because since I don't have one at all, it definitely applies to me.
Okay. Well, you're keeping yourself in great shape then. I assume you're eating, how many calories a day do you eat?
I don't know, but not that many. I don't. I'm sure I'm well under 2,000. And
yeah, I'm down around 1,400.
Yeah. I can't. I just can't burn it.
I got you. All right. Well, back on to the book. First of all, tell them how to find the book.
Well, the book, the most of, well, I guess they don't love me saying this, but your most cost-effective way to gain access to the book is online. The great deals online.
Right.
And BarnesandNobles.com, Amazon.com, great prices.
All right. Now that's where to get it, why to get it. Why should somebody want to read this book?
Well, at the end of the day, what I talk about is ultimately investing in yourself. That's the number one investment I think you can make. And
what do you mean by that?
You invest in yourself by increasing your knowledge base, learning, and most of us, what we do, and I think the money mistakes that we make, is that instead of actually learning ourselves, we cherry pick. We look for tips. We try to rely on other people's information. We watch Jim Cramer and try to follow his advice. We do things that aren't really us actually gaining knowledge. We're just trying to it's that same lotto mentality that's gotten us into trouble in this country, generally speaking. Rather than doing the foundational work to learn how to grow wealth, we look for easy answers, tips, hookups, etc. And the book talks about that. The book goes deeply into what is true wealth in your life beyond just money, and investing in yourself.
What is true wealth?
Well, everyone has. What I talk about in the book is that money plus wellness equals wealth, and we all have different wellness factors. I call them wealth factors or wellness factors. For you, it may be different than for me. For some people, it's spending time with their kids. Some people, it's their relationship with God and spirituality. Some people, it's working and doing something that they're passionate about, being creative. Some people, it's just being healthy and being able to work out and be active and go fishing and cycle or do whatever. We all have different, what I call wellness factors. Money is a separate piece to that. Money is a foundational element or a resource tool that I talk about. And the analogy I use is that of a hammer. You can think about money like a hammer. And the way we use a hammer, if you're using a hammer for its specified purpose, pound a nail, dismantle something, it works extremely well. When you start to use a hammer for a non-specified purpose, such as brain surgery, it does a horrible job. In fact, it makes matters worse. Money is the exact same thing. If we learn how to use the resource tool of money, we can create new avenues that feed our wellness factors, that feed our wealth factor. If we use money in the incorrect way, we can actually do damage to that. So we're ultimately chasing paper all the time. Most of us use money in the completely wrong way because we've been taught the wrong things about money.
Hill, in your book, you help redefine the proper relationship between money and true wealth. Are the two mutually exclusive, or do they grow in tandem?
They grow in tandem in a certain way, and this is going to be, I think, a challenging idea to some of your listeners. But I'm gonna put it out there, and then they're going to have to try to wrap their noodle around it. But we are living in a time where we overvalue money, and I am of the mindset that we have to get back to more fundamental values, and if we start looking at getting back to more fundamental values, we will start to, the subtitle of my book is Putting Money in Its Place. We will be able to put money back into its proper context. Because when we think about, historically speaking, obviously, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to understand that, money was created as a means of exchange to replace the barter system. I don't want to carry around a sack of potatoes and have 2 chickens.
And as a store of value, which is, it's not performing well in that role. It's still a good bartering system, but it's no longer a store of value.
Exactly. And so, but what I believe is that as we, over time, start to place heightened value in its acquisition, to the extent that we're willing to justify behavior that is not necessarily producing anything new, but rather coming up with schemes and intricate ideas about how I can extract money from you. So if my principal innovation or the idea of, for instance, I have 2 graduate degrees from Harvard. Most of the people I went to school with that I would consider the most brilliant folks, they did not go into creating new businesses, new products. new services. They weren't really truly innovating new things. What they were doing were participating in joining businesses whose principal activity was trying to figure out new and intricate ways to separate other people from their money.
Interesting concept.
So, if our best and brightest are not creating new businesses, new products, new services, etc., we can just look at, we can look at the market cap of Apple and understand how effective and beautiful innovators can be, and how they create jobs, and how the fact that the greatest way to deal with this debt crisis is to create 14 or 15 million jobs and have people paying taxes. It's not about who's paying taxes at what level or this, that. It's just more people paying taxes.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, if we don't have innovators doing that, we're not going to have that. Because there's not a lot of there aren't new jobs in me trying to figure out a program to cheat you out of your pension. I'm going to grab your pension. If I can figure out how to grab your pension, I get rich. I get wealthy. And we justify that behavior because we say, oh, he was just making money. That's okay. But it's not okay. And that's when I talk about returning to some specific levels of value.
Let's deviate a little bit. It's a tough time out there right now.
Yes.
A lot of people are struggling. I talk to people that say, oh, I don't see any of it. And I say, well, you're not part of the 22% who are unemployed, underemployed. You haven't lost your job. You're not dealing in that element, but there's a certain percentage of them who are.
Yes.
How do you give them hope? Well, what do? They're about to be foreclosed on. They don't have any money. They don't have a job.
Okay.
I mean, help them.
There's a process here, and the cure element to the wealth cure is that I talk about using the way medical practitioners deal with solving a disease or a problem, the same way you can deal with your money issues. So you have to go – it's a very specific, strategic, step-by-step process to deal. If you're unemployed, if you're swimming in credit card debt or debt vis-a-vis your home, etc., we first have to make a diagnosis. Everyone's coming at this from a different perspective. Everyone has different income levels, different wealth factors, etc. So we first make a diagnosis what your problems are. So we write that out. We definitely have to budget. We have to be extremely specific about where is our money going today. And then we go to a treatment plan. And we have to come up with a treatment plan. And a lot of people are really good at those first two steps. A lot of people can come up with a diagnosis and identify their problems. A lot of people can come up with a plan about how to solve it. Well, I'm going to pay this down, and I'm going to do this, and this is the one that's the higher interest, and I'm going to get rid of that. And here's where we start to fall down. We start to fall down in compliance and maintenance. Some people get to the compliance stage where they start actually doing it. But just like a diet, they diet down, they get down to their optimal weight, but it's hard to stay there. The maintenance is very difficult because it takes a level of discipline. And then once you get through those steps, there's a level of thriving. You'll come out the other side. I believe that we can look at it. We've been pointing fingers at the government, talking about the debt crisis. But it's just a mirror of our personal debt crisis. In 1980, Americans carried $355 billion in personal debt. In 2008, that number was $2.6 trillion in personal debt. We did not grow 8 times in terms of our population.
No, we've gone from being a nation of producers to a nation of consumers.
Yes.
And the Chinese, what I argue is we've been on a generational binge where we were buying things we didn't need with money we didn't have.
Exactly.
And now it's time to pay the piper.
And we are going to do that. Yet we want to point the finger here. It's big government's fault. It's this, it's that, it's this.
Well, the government was doing it while the citizens were doing it.
Everybody's doing it together. We're all in concert doing it all together.
Absolutely. And we're all getting out of it together.
That's right.
Right.
And question is, what do we do? I believe we go back to, look at our public education system. 30 years ago, we were number 1 in math, number 1 in science worldwide. Today, we're number 22 and 24, respectively. We have runaway jobs. We have people that aren't hireable for a lot of these tech jobs that are the new jobs because we have failed in terms of educating. many of our citizens. These are some really fundamental things that we have to get back. They're going to take a while to solve. This isn't a 1-year solve, a 3-year solve, a 4-year solve. This is really getting back to being very fundamentally oriented. I always say this. If you have big goals, big dreams, and America always has had those things. You know, there's a lot of revisionist history going on with the Ronald Reagan era. But one of my favorite quotes by President Reagan was he said, "Putting people first has always been America's secret weapon," and we've gotten away from that. If we're not educating our people, we're not putting them first. If we're not giving them opportunities to innovate, we're not putting them first. If we have runaway manufacturing, we're not putting them first. And so it's getting back to these foundational issues.
Hill, we're about out of time. And the name of the book?
It's called The Wealth Cure, subtitle Putting Money in Its Place. I think you'll like it. And I talk about investing. I think this is a purchase that'll be an investment that will pay off for you ultimately. And if you're in a situation where you don't have the money to be purchasing books, listen, I'm not trying to get your money. Go to the library. Read the book. Go to the library. It'll be there. And so if you can't afford it, go to the library.
I know this is a little different than our normal fare today, but I hope you've enjoyed it. My name is Alan Butler. My co-host is Jason Riddle. Taylor Austin is our producer.
You don't have one of those buttons that makes all the noise? Yeah! Woo!
No, it's a kind of a somber show. All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.